What's going on, guys? My name is Tony, and today I'll tell you everything you need to know before getting Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, spoiler free. Bloodstained is an indie Metroidvania developed by Artplay and published by 505 Games, released for PC, PS4, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. The development of the game was headed by none other than Koji Igarashi, famous for the creation of Castlevania Symphony of the Night and of course part of the Metroidvania genre, with the public's help in an incredible crowdfunding campaign raising over $5 million on Kickstarter. Bloodstained is regarded as the spiritual successor of the Castlevania series. So let's see, Bloodstained, is it worth it? Bloodstained takes place in the 18th century, during the Industrial Revolution. The alchemist guilds, afraid of losing influence over the rich, created the Shardbinders, humans forcibly fused with crystals full of demonic power, then sacrificing them to summon demons from hell, to basically scare people. The chaos was uncontrollable, destroying the guild in much of England, until the church managed to banish the demons. Of the Shardbinders, only one survived the sacrifice, Jibble. Another Shardbinder, Miriam, was spared because she fell into a deep sleep before the ritual. 10 years later, Miriam awakes and discovers that Jibble summoned demons to destroy England and take revenge on the alchemists. With the help of Johannes, an alchemist friend, and Dominic, an exorcist from the church, they try to stop Jibble at all costs. I played the game entirely on PC, including the main campaign and some side quests, and I'm happy to say that the game behaved completely well, with no frame drops or crashes from start to finish. But I think it's important to point out that the first time I played, near the release, the game crashed twice on me during gameplay, but this time it was all smooth. Maybe they fixed it, or maybe I was just lucky. At the beginning of the game you can run, jump, crouch, slide on the ground, attack with your equipped weapon, use items in your inventory and use different charges as spells. But as the game progresses, as this is a Metroidvania, you will gain new shards that allow you to reach previously unreachable places, such as a giant hand that helps you move some objects and get them out of the way, or put them in a more appropriate place to help you jumping. This makes exploration more dynamic, and sometimes even if you don't change locations properly speaking, things seem extremely new simply because you have new ways to explore, making visits to old places always interesting. Miriam has two different resource bars, health and MP. Health, as the name implies, means how many hits you can take, and MP or mana is the amount of spells and abilities you can use or sustain. And although the game has some RPG elements, you don't increase your life and mana only by leveling up. You may also find items scattered around the map that give you a permanent boost in these stats, as well as some that increase your capacity to carry ammo. The levels in turn increase your stats gradually, making you a little stronger with each passing one. But what really makes you feel the difference in power are your equipment and level of the shards you use. The equipment can be dropped by enemies you defeat, found inside green chests, or, which will usually be the most common option, created with alchemy on your main base with Johannes. This is where you will create items, prepare meals, or enhance your shards, all with the power of alchemy. Speaking like that sounds complicated, but it's a very simple craft system, where it tells you the ingredients needed to forge an item or enhance a shard, and once you have the necessary materials, you can make them with no extra cost. Here you can also deconstruct items, taking back the materials that they were made of, so you don't get stuck with something you created and no longer uses, but really need one of the ingredients you use for the transmutation. But in this case you have to use alcohest as a catalyzer to the process to be done, increasing in number depending on the value of the item you want to deconstruct. Shards can't be undone. Speaking of shards, Here we have 6 different types of shards. Conjured, where you simply cast some type of magic. Directional, where you need to aim where the magic goes. Manipulatives, which have very varied effects and do not have anything in common to one another. Passive, where they are passive effects. Familiar, that summons a creature to help you in your journey. And skills that can change the way you play or make your life easier, such as shortcuts, where you can save several different loadouts that you can switch from one to another on a whim. Each shard has 9 ranks and 9 grades. Ranks will increase via alchemy with your hands, and the effect depends on the shard you are using. And the grades you increase by grabbing the same shard several times, and the effect also varies from shard to shard. Shards for the most part are obtained by defeating enemies, where all of them has a different shard for you, including bosses. So, for you to increase the grade on them, you will have to defeat the same enemy several times, farming them for a while until you complete the 9. Some are simpler because the sheer amount of the same enemy on one map. Others are more complicated because often there's only one of them in the entire game. So you see, New Game Plus in your face if you want to get grade 9 in these shards. I find the idea of having ranks and grading interesting, but to tell you the truth, I think it's a bit overkill and can make the game a bit tedious at times depending on your level of completionism. Maybe if we get a Bloodstained 2, it would be nice to let ranks and grades be the same thing. In accessories, you have a weapon, an ammo if it's a pistol, headgear, body armor, scarf, and 2 accessories, all of which can be made with alchemy too, but you don't have access to all recipes from the start. You have to find them during exploration to gain access to increasingly powerful equipment. Crafting games like this one is one of my favorite things to do, so whenever I found a new book, it puts a smile on my face. I spent a long time farming ingredients for the equipment that I was after, and the end result was fantastic. It's really cool to kill hordes of enemies with a weapon you just made yourself. And lastly, we have the cooking, where you can prepare meals that restore HP, but most importantly, every time you taste a meal for the first time, you get a stat bonus permanently. So go it! As weapons we have daggers, combat boots, swords, clubs, great swords, whips and firearms. And in each category we find a wide variety of different weapons, some super sinister and some fun and silly, like the clown shoes that make noises when you walk. Something very important to mention is that the game does not have an autosave function. In other words, you died before arriving in the saving room, get screwed noob, you lose all the progress you made. It happened to me in the beginning the first time I played, because I took a wrong turn instead of entering the save room in an area. I lost so much progress that almost made me quit the game. But you get used to it, and there are ways to take you to safety instantly if you think you're going to die before reaching the next save point. The combat here is so satisfying, changing according to the type of weapon you use. Pretty fast with fighting boots for example, or a little slower but powerful with a great sword. Each type of weapon has a secret technique as well, which you learn by reading the books on the shelves you find in the castle, or randomly pressing buttons on your controller. That way it works too. For example, the Kung Fu boots you get in the beginning can be used to make 3 flying kicks in sequence, which can be used to hit harder or other things. In addition to weapons, you can use your shards to destroy your enemies, and some of the shards are very OP. Initially, the game has no customization whatsoever. You play Miriam with her original outfit and that's it. You can't change anything about the character's appearance, but during the game you unlock an NPC where you can change the haircut, hair color, eye color, skin color and dress color as well. It's pretty cool and you can customize your Miriam a lot, leaving her more to your liking. In addition, the head accessories and helmets appears on the character, making it different with each one you wear, and the scarves appears as well. The armor or clothing does not change with the exception of one item throughout the game, sadly. Here we have an impressive array of enemies from the very beginning, and as stated earlier, each of them drops a different type of shard as well, making the game even more varied. In addition to that, various enemies have variants according to the location you visit, change appearance, powers, and often combat tactics as well. But unfortunately, none of the common enemies has a personality of its own, being just enemies in a castle. Bosses are quite varied and creative, where most of them test your knowledge of the game's combat, so many fights can be intense if you are unprepared. But for me, they are extremely rewarding. It's a very good feeling to defeat a boss considered hard. It gives you a sense of pride and accomplishment, where many games fail. But I have to say, some of them are very easy and gives the impression that they were just added to give you a new way to advance through the castle. But if I can say something about the bosses is screw the woman in red, man. I won't say anything else. The game has some side quests too, but nothing too impressive. You can deliver different foods to an old lady, you can defeat enemies for a woman's revenge, and things like that. Overall, it does not impact the main story, but most of them give you a very good reward, especially if you do all the stages, so I recommend doing them whenever possible. The maps, or should I say the map, because in theory everything happens in the castle, right? Anyway, it's very well done, full of details and stunning atmosphere. There are a few shortcuts you can unlock to get back to some areas more easily, and there are fast travel points scattered all over the castle to make your backtracking and farm a lot easier and less painful. And it does not take long to find a room where you can save and recover all your MP and HP. Also, it's good to note that the game has several hidden rooms behind breakable walls. Some are quite simple to notice, some a little more complicated. I suggest hitting any walls you think might have something hidden in them. It's always worth it when there are. The story in the game is basically told in dialogues, with very few real cutscenes. But even so, they can get you involved in the plot and somehow make you care about certain characters. The premise of the story is clear from the start, but there are twists and turns within the plot that makes you pay attention and really embark on that little world the game is introduced to you. It's nothing too deep, and the choice of narrative style being just semi-static images of the characters talking to each other might leave a bit to be desired for some people who prefer a slightly deeper plot. But games on this genre are usually like this, and for what he proposes, it does a really good job. I really enjoyed this story, as simple and sometimes obvious as it may be. The game has different endings, with only one of them being considered the real ending, but if you do it right, you can see all in one save. The graphics were a point of concern for many people before the game was released, because some of the betas had not been very well received, and Mighty No. 9 had just come out, which was a disappointment for everyone. But I can say with a relief that the graphics looks fantastic. Miriam is beautiful, the details and animations are perfect. The enemies, the castle, all the spells, everything is spotless. Everything complements each other in a beautiful way and leaves the game with a very unique look. But not everything is perfect. In the dialogue, the way the characters' mouths move bothered me a little bit. Nothing too serious, but it's definitely an area that could improve a lot. The soundtrack is one of the best I have heard in a long time, especially with the boss battle music, hyping you up for the upcoming battle. All the musics are super good and you can listen to the songs for hours on end. The sounds such as weapon impact, shard spells, and enemy sounds are also very well made, and sometimes kinda silly. But if I could change one thing, is that Miriam yells the name of some spells or something on those lines every time she uses it. And if it is a spell you use often, it can get annoying pretty fast. They could put a cooldown on the speech or something like that to not piss anyone off. The voices of the characters are very good, both in English and Japanese. I have finished the game in both languages. But I have to say, because some lip sync issues, maybe playing Japanese is more interesting. And besides, when she yells the name of the spells, it seems like you're watching an episode of Saint Seiya. For someone who never played any real Metroidvania before Bloodstained, unless you count Wonder Boy, enjoying the game as much as I did is impressive. For me, it is one of the best games made in recent years, and coming from a Kickstarter makes me even happier, because despite some successes, Kickstarter was starting to become synonymous with unfulfilled promises. I tip my hat for Igarashi and his team, and I hope from the bottom of my heart that this game will have a sequel soon. The name Castlevania is very important for the gaming industry to die on a pachinko machine. Let's hope it lives many more years under the name Bloodstained. Undoubtedly, if you like the genre and have not played this yet, what are you waiting for? An invitation? If you don't like the genre, I think you should give the game a try anyway. If this is what modern Metroidvanias has to offer, I can't wait to dive into this world and try it some other soon. And this is it. This is my review of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was useful to help you decide whether to play or not. So smash the like button, subscribe for more reviews in the future, and in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.